Hello, my friends. This is the Nope Coach podcast, episode 299, Feeling Taken Advantage of. I'm your host, Suzanne Culberg. This episode is a request, a Dear Suze. It's my version of the Dear Abby. Basically, I got this email, and if you have a topic you'd like me to talk to, you want some advice, Dear Suze, send me a message at info@suzanneculberg.com, put in the subject heading podcast topic or podcast suggestion, give me your download or your question, and if it's relevant and I think I can help, I'll do a podcast about it. The nuts and the bolts of this message, oh, and I should say any email sent to me will be kept anonymous. Nuts and the bolts of this message was this person was like, basically, I feel taken advantage of. First thing I'm going to say, if you haven't listened to the previous episode, episode 298, after this one, go find that one. It's on weaponized incompetence because I think this talks a lot to that. So there's some overlap in between the topics. And firstly, I just want to normalize the frustration that we can feel when we feel like we've been taken advantage of. It's exhausting. It's like my teeth grind, and reading this person's message, I'm not going to go to the ins and outs of it because, in a nutshell, I could summarize it in a sentence. Just being taken advantage of. It's hard. And just being able to word that and to bring attention to that and to become aware of that. Because how many of us don't realize that we're being taken advantage of? We just think that we're disorganized or we've taken on too many things, or as a result of the frustration from feeling taken advantage of, we end up overeating, overworking, overshopping, overspending, over something in. And then we look for answers for our overeating, our overshopping, our overworking, instead of setting boundaries and saying no and being clear about what we will do and what we won't do and what is capacity for us, and knowing that these boundaries can change. So in my Building Boundaries bundle, if you haven't seen that yet, if you go to suzanneculberg.com/BBB for Building Boundaries bundle, it is a self-study course. It does have a price tag attached with it. At the time of recording this, it's 50 Australian dollars, so it's a low-cost course. But one of the examples I give in that course was there was somebody back in the day when my oldest child was a baby who basically didn't have a car. And a couple of times I'd see her catching the bus or pushing her pram or stroller, if you're from overseas and you call it a stroller, with all the grocery bags laid down on it. And I was like, oh my gosh, that must be so hard. So I volunteered. I said, hey, when I go to the supermarket, when I go to Woolworths, which is our supermarket, would you like to come with me? And once a week, we can go to the groceries together. You can put your son's seat in the car. I can drive us both down. And she was like, oh, that'd be amazing. And this was great. And I offered. So sometimes too, when we feel taken advantage of, when we track it back in our minds, we're like, but I initiated it. So I offered. Then what happened is she started messaging me the second time a week going, I've run out of milk or bread. Can you do a shop run here? And I said, yes. And then it became every other day. And then it became, can you take my son to swimming? Can you organize our birthday party? Can I borrow your this? Can I stay at your place? And just speaking about it now, I can feel the frustration. It's been years. My daughter's 11 this year, but I can feel the frustration that's still there because I felt so taken advantage of. But then again, I didn't say no. So I've got to own my part in it. Anyway, cut a long story short, one day we're at a mother's group meeting, play date thing, and I was in the bathroom in the stalls and she was at the sink. She didn't realize I was there. And somebody was saying, hey, do you want to go do this? And she said, oh, yeah, Suze will take me. She's my little bitch. And my heart broke. And I can't say that I handled that situation particularly well. As a result, that friendship is no more. So, you might be like, oh, well, she was taking advantage of you. 100%, no worries. But I never said no. And I started to feel resentful. Instead of speaking about that, I let it build and let it build until that moment, like what she said wasn't fair or kind, but my reaction to it wasn't either. So I do have to own my place in that. So all of this to say, when you feel that you're taken advantage of, can you notice it before you reach boiling point? before you reach the exploding doormat, people pleaser, lose your mind, absolutely kind of point, because that's a rupture that sometimes there's never a repair from when we really blow up like that. So, what are the signs that you're starting to feel taken advantage of? And how can you communicate it? Like, you don't say to the person, hey, I feel you're taking advantage of me. You could, depending on the friendship you have and the rapport and the relationship. Like, the advantage of being the nope coach and boundaries is I can say whatever I want now because people in my life are like, yeah, that's just Suze. But, not everybody has built this level of boundaries with people. So, a kinder or more polite way of doing it might be like, hey, friend, I noticed that I'm taking you to get groceries, or I'm, taking you to things 3 or 4 times a week now. And it's getting a bit much. So I'm happy, and also only say you're happy if you are. I'm happy to go back to our original agreement of, taking you out once a week. But anything more than that, and then you'll need to organize alternative transport or somebody else or whatever. You don't have to give them solutions. Them working out what to do isn't in your wheelhouse. So or if you are willing to do it, like, how far out of your way do you want to go, or do you want to be compensated in some way? Like, I remember one time this particular person asked me to take them to the airport, which was over an hour's drive. um I didn't ask them for any petrol fuel money. I could have said, sure, I'll take you to the airport. It's probably going to be, $25 or petrol or whatever. So if you're happy to fix that up, let's go. And once again, only if you are, because sometimes there's the cost is in your time to take them to all these places. There's the cost of petrol and parking and entry if you go somewhere that sometimes, or you go out to lunch and they always skip out on the bill and you feel taken advantage of because you're like, I paid for this. But until you communicate it, and some of these conversations are going to be awkward, especially in the beginning. But, as Brene Brown says, who's the queen of boundaries, in my opinion, choose discomfort over resentment. It might cause a lot of discomfort to say, can you pay for the fuel? Can you contribute towards parking? Can you take a turn? Can we take turns to pay for the meal, or whatever it is? Like, that might bring so much discomfort. But isn't that better to feel that discomfort and work through it than to sit with the seething resentment of, I always pay? Or I'm always the one dropping everything and running around, or I'm always the one who's organizing things. Like, I know in the past Suze would always feel taken advantage of because I'd feel like I was the one who initiated outings like movies or trips or coffees or catch ups, and people wouldn't initiate them for me, but I never asked them to. And if you don't, people aren't aware of your boundaries if you don't communicate them, if you don't say what they are. People won't know that you're feeling taken advantage of if you don't tell them. Some people might think, oh, she just loves doing this. I remember working with a client once who she would have been more than happy to organize a babysitter. She was totally happy to. But she was like, oh, my mum, she just loves taking care of the kids. Like, the grandparents love having the kids all the time. And apparently one day her mum just lost it at her and said, you're always asking me and your father to look after the kids. We've had our kids. And there was like a whole big rupture in that relationship. And she was like, I didn't know. She never asked me, like, she never said, this is getting to be too much. If she'd said, I'm happy to take the kids once a month or every second week or whatever, like whatever, and know that that can be renegotiated. You might be like, sure, I'll take the kids to swimming every week, and then be like, actually, this is, clashing with something else, or it's taking more time than I thought, or I have another engagement. Can we change it to once every second week? So, like, at the time of recording this, my daughter Xanthi does cheerleading now. And I have like an arrangement with one of the other mums. So she picks Xanthi up and drops the girls off, and we pick the girls up and drop the other girl home. And it's brilliant because we don't need to sit, we live in the city, well, city by my standards in Sydney. If I drive out there, by the time I get there, I'm not going to drive home. So I have to sit there for 2 hours while cheerleading's on. And it's like, it's a no from me. So this arrangement works really well because one of us picks up and one of us drops off. And then we've got the thing in place. If this ever needs to change, if one of the kids is sick or we have another commitment, just let the other one know like the day before and we can change that out. Now, down the line, that might change. We might have, oh, can you do drop off and I'll do pick up? Or I don't know, the girls could have a fight. Tweens are like so many things. But to be clearly communicating rather than feeling like you're the one who's always doing the thing, choosing the discomfort of initiating that conversation over the resentment of feeling like you're just taken advantage of all the time. This is a lot of the work I do with people in my program, Why Wait, in my one-to-one coaching. It's like, okay, tell me what's going on, like get it all out, and then let's map a way to articulate it so everybody gets their needs met. Because sometimes when we give and give and give and give, we either explode and then rupture beyond repair, or we unknowingly keep a tally in our heads and then kind of want to cash in, like, oh, now it's my turn. I've done this and I've done that and I've done this. And then we kind of ask, but our ask isn't really an ask, it's a demand. And then we get confused when people get annoyed with us. So all of this to say, when you're to like sum all this up, because we're at time, what are the signs that you're starting to feel taken advantage of? How can you communicate, articulate that before it reaches the exploding doormat kind of stage? How uncomfortable is it for you to articulate that? And are you willing to choose that discomfort over the resentment of feeling, I'm the only one and people always take advantage of me? Because, yeah, I've lived in that place. I was there. That was before. Why do you think I teach boundaries? You teach what you most need to learn so you can learn it. And yeah, it's not a comfortable place, but there is a way out. So if you want to work with me on it, if you go to my website, suzanneculberg.com, check out Why Wait. I also do one-to-one coaching if that's more in your wheelhouse. If you prefer to work one-to-one, there is an application form there that you can fill in. And otherwise, yeah, you can work through this, just acknowledging it. Sometimes, we can't change what we don't acknowledge. So acknowledging it, oh yeah, this is a thing for me. Thank you so much for listening. If you have a Dear Abby/Dear Suze question you want advice on, info@suzanneculberg.com. I may just do an episode for you. Thanks for watching. Catch you on the next one. Bye for now.